Linda King. I love travel. Anybody who's been listening knows I went to Italy when I was 10 years old by myself. I love to travel. I think I'm not going to say no better education, but it's a great education. Linda King is from Melbourne, Australia. She is the Travelista. She's written 6 books. Great travel blog she has. It's just wonderful insight on travel. We talk about being the difference between a tourist and a traveler, what to do at certain countries, what things to look out for, experiences that she has, how to deal with currency, how to deal with culture. We know that some cultures are very kind of forgiving, and some are a little bit more strict in things that they believe and enforce. It's a great conversation about travel. I never get sick of it. I think everybody should travel. They should travel abroad. Many Americans do. I think it's just a wonderful way just to see how others can live and live happily. Great conversation with Linda King. Really enjoyed this discussion. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. 2, 1. Linda King, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you doing this. What's the difference between a tourist and a traveler?
Well, I think a tourist is someone that's probably a bit of a novice, so they haven't done travel too much. I think a traveller is probably a little bit more experienced in the ways of travel, and I think, but both a tourist and a traveller can get themselves into situations which I haven't come across before. So I think that's the leveler probably when things go wrong. But yeah, that would be what I would say would be the difference.
And when they travel to another country, I know you've spent a lot of time. I know you speak Italian because you've been there for so long. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Um, and when they buongiorno. When they go there, to any country for that matter, how much of the culture should they soak in to really appreciate the sense of the people and the location and the atmosphere?
I think it really depends on how long someone's there. So I don't know, you could try your best to soak up someone's culture in maybe 5 days, but it normally takes a little bit more longer to sort of get the way of the way of life and all that sort of thing. So it just depends. If you've done a lot of prep before you go there and you've already know a bit more, then maybe you'll be a bit more receptive to what you experience when you're there. But I think the more time you're in a place, the more layers you build, the more understanding you've got of the people and also of the culture.
Yeah, prep is really important. I know the World Cup was just in Qatar,
Mm.
And, I have many friends who are, big football, soccer fans, wanted to go, but they were afraid, they were concerned that maybe they didn't understand something of the culture, and they would, be misinterpreted, and they could be sentenced, they could be punished, etc. So that kind of prep is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're going to the Middle East because their their culture is very different to anything that
Right.
we would experience. So, yeah, I've been to the Middle East and yeah, you definitely need to go, okay, what can I and what can't I do? Especially when there's like Ramadan. When Ramadan, there's very strict rules around that. So if you go into that without really doing your prep, then you can get yourself into all sorts of trouble.
That's fascinating because in Ramadan they fast from sunrise to sunset.
Yes. And us Westerners will go into like a food area at lunchtime. We might be out shopping. They have big black
Yeah.
curtains because they don't want the locals to see everyone eat. So you go through a black curtain normally, and then and also something that we all do, which is sort of common practice, is we have our bottle of water with us and we drink it. You can't do that either. So you've got to be really careful.
Right.
It's not just the eating; it's also the drinking.
Very, very interesting. I used to coach my daughters in soccer, and we were running some practices this kind of preseason, and this one, girl said, "Can I take a break?" I said, "Sure, go ahead, take a break." And later we found out we didn't even know she was participating in Ramadan. Her parents told us, and I said, "I wish we would have known. She's been fasting. Oh, oh my goodness, we would have pulled her aside, and
Mm.
she can't have any water." I just, but they're so nice, so nice, and just, that was a mistake on our part for not knowing that. I am that's very interesting, and I also know, just generally, we talked about, Italy, just how different they oh my goodness, how they
Mm.
eat, the idea of having a coffee cup in your car, a coffee holder in your car, it's just an abomination to them. You should be sitting in a cafe drinking coffee, not when you're on your way to work or anything. And it's just complete opposite here.
Yeah, yeah. They laugh at us, I think, when we go over there. Some of the practices that we do, which are not really, as far as they're concerned, not appropriate. I think the big one with the pizza, they don't like pineapple on the pizza. They go, "What? Pineapple?" Yeah, but yeah, it makes travel entertaining. I would say because you're learning about different people and the way that they live, and it makes you more informed. Really, you can mold yourself to whatever you need to with depending on the country that you're in.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not a fan of the pineapple on the pizza too, but I know how many people are. And yeah, they're very different there in their culinary taste is so
Mm,
different. My father is from near
mm.
Naples. When you traveled Italy, did you travel the whole coast, the whole north and
Yeah, so I
south?
went to Naples,
How,
Amalfi, and
yeah.
Pompeii. You've got to go to Pompeii. I go there, every few years you discover they've uncovered some more of Pompeii. But yeah, down the north and south, fantastic country. So much diversity and so much to see.
Very mm. The north and south are very different.
Yes, yes. I think north is probably more like our big city. So if you think of Australia, Sydney's like the big city, and where it's a little bit more serious. I think further south you get it, they're a little bit more relaxed. Um, so it's like any big city, London, New York. Yeah, I think, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, I like that term. Yeah, yeah, I like that term relax. I tell you a quick story.
Mm,
My relatives are from south of Naples, and I had I used to go there as a child, and my cousins are 12 and 14 and 16, and they were working for the town. I don't know what that means, working, but
mm,
they were doing some kind of work. And I remember it was Monday and they weren't working. And I asked them, "Why aren't you working?" And they said, "It's raining. We don't work outside when it's raining." I said, "Okay." It's Tuesday. It was raining again. They didn't work. Wednesday, it wasn't raining. And I asked them, why aren't you working today? And they say, oh, you never start the week on a Wednesday.
Oh,
So that was kind of their attitude.
yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of their attitude. Very, very different. Very different.
Yeah. Sounds like they make their own rules. But as long
Absolutely.
as everyone abides by the rules, I suppose there's no problem.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now you have a fascinating background in that you were a banker and then a travel agent and then turned into this. Of course, now you're the you're who you are. This you're the travelista. Talk to me about that transition.
So I got into travel because I've been traveling since I was quite small. And what happened was I was living in Sydney. So I'm originally from Sydney and then came to Melbourne. And so as a travel agent, worked for an airline. And then there was none of those jobs down here. So when I came to Melbourne, I thought, well, let's try something different. So I went into the banking. And as it turned out, I'm back into travel again. So I've just sort of closed the circle. But travel's always been in my blood. And the Smart Travelista really was created from conversations that I'd had with other travellers. I was giving them a real lot of good travel tips because we'd get into conversations. And this lady said to me, have you got a website? Have you got a blog? Because I'd absolutely sign up for it. And then I thought to myself, I've got none of that. And then I thought about all these tips people had always
Mm.
been asking me about them. And I thought, I've got to record them somewhere. So that's when I also wrote the books. So for me, I love saving money, as most people do, and I love travel. So I thought it was just a brilliant combination to combine the two.
It's an excellent blog. You've got 6 books. I mean, you're very modest. You do a great job in sharing some of your recent blogs about, best, websites for flights, for booking. I mean, you kind of really, help those travelers. Has the travel agent, is it necessary? Is it ever a good time to use that? Are they still around?
So it depends, really, Joe, with the travel agents, your circumstances. So you might be time poor and you just don't have time to do any of that research and prep. So going to a travel agent's perfect. You're paying for their expertise. They do all the planning, they do all the admin for you. If you have got the time and you've got the confidence to be able to go and do that searching for your flights, for your visas, for your accommodation, your touring, and all that sort of stuff, then absolutely. I think it's an individual thing. Some people are a little bit scared about doing it because they go, oh, I don't know about the time zones. I might get the flights wrong and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a place for both. I don't think travel agents are as prominent as they used to be. I think back in the day that you couldn't do anything other than go to a travel agent, but
Mm,
now I think you've got the choice. And it's just really
right.
about whether you've got that confidence and also whether you want to do it. So if you want to do it, absolutely. I've got a lot of books and resources on my website that give people tips on how to do that. But it's the individual choice, really.
As a nation, do Australians travel than any other?
Oh, travel is like it's like our second name. We absolutely love traveling. And I think it goes back to the fact that when we're young, so when we leave school, we have sort of, the gap year. People love, we sort of, before you start your job, you go and travel. And a lot of young people take that to a far extreme. So they'll go, okay, I'm going to go backpacking and I'm going to go for like 6 months. So instead of like a month. But I think because we're so far away from everywhere,
Wow.
we just want to travel. We just want to see people in Europe. We just want to go to America. Yeah, I think it's in our blood, and I think it's
Mm,
part of our culture really that we travel. So, as a child, with my parents taking us around Australia, we were always going to travel because it's something that everyone does here. I don't know about everyone else. I think there's a lot of people around the world in different cultures that do a similar thing. I think the English also come out and they do like a gap year and they'll also travel. But yeah, I think once you've got it in your blood, it never goes. And especially after what's just happened with the pandemic, people are going berserk. I know the Australians just want to get out of Australia. It's like, okay, where can I go?
Mm.
How much is it? Doesn't matter. I'm going.
It really is true. I have Australian friends and they've traveled so much,
Mm,
and whenever you travel places, you always seem to find Australians, and they're always very friendly and very courteous. Unlike occasionally Americans, but my father's from Italy, and so I'm 10 years old. It's it's third grade, the summer beginning of summer vacation, and my father gives me a suitcase, tells me to put my clothes in it, proceeds to bring me to the bus station. I'm from the Northeast, from New Haven. Says Tells the bus driver to drop me off JFK in New York City in Queens, Terminal One. Gives me a plane ticket and a bus ticket and a picture of my grandmother, and I'm going to meet her in
mm,
Milan. So a 10-year old child, my father would probably be arrested now, but I found my way there. I flew to Milan. I found my grandmother and my uncle, and I proceed to spend, every other summer in Italy and southern Switzerland, until college. So I found myself kind of immersed into the culture at a young age, only because I have a direct parent who kind of said, go see your relatives, go see your
mm.
family. So it's a bit unusual tale amongst Americans to kind of go that early.
Yeah, but it would have been a good experience. You would have opened your eyes to the world that you would not have known about. Um, yeah, so I think as a child, you're very open to that sort of stuff. So you would have gone, oh, and then, yeah, and
Yeah.
if they'd said to you, you're going to see your grandparents, you would have gone, great, I know what I'm up for this time. Let me at it.
Yeah, absolutely. People asked me if I was scared, and I said no. I was quite
Mm,
excited. I get to go on a plane.
mm,
I get to go to another country. I didn't. I only spoke a little bit of Italian, but then you get immersed into it. And to this day, I wonder if you'll agree with this, Linda. When people go to Italy, I think it generally works for kind of Spain and France as well.
mm,
I tell them three things. One, when you're looking for some place to eat, ask the police. They don't get paid. The taxi drivers, the maitre d's, they all get paid to push you places. The police will just kind of tell you.
mm,
Two, if the menu in the restaurant is in English, it's usually a bad sign.
mm.
And even better if it's up on a chalkboard, that means it's fresh. And then three, when you're going for the wine, get the wine in the craft. The local wine is less expensive and often much better than the bottled wine. Your thoughts?
I would agree with all that. And going back to the police, they also like food, so offer them food because I've done that and it and it helped. So they'll tell you where the best places are, but
Ah.
also offer them food, and that's always a good way to bridge the gap.
Very, very interesting. And generally, I find that to be the case, especially with the wine in those kind of countries. But why do you think it is like the kind of the northern
Mm,
countries? I mean, Italy isn't known. I know we're spending a lot of time on Europe, but what I happen. Italy's just kind of known to drink wine and maybe some limoncello. France a little bit, in Spain, but when you get up to like Germany, Sweden, and England, they do a lot of heavy drinking, a lot of beer, a
mm.
lot of heavy alcohol. Why do you think there's that change? Is it the weather?
I think they've got a lot less sunlight in the winter time, and it's a lot colder up there, so they've got to warm themselves. So I think the alcohol does that, warms them up. And I think it's a bit rough, really. I mean, look, I've been up to Scandinavia, and I was there in summertime. It's crazy. You go to bed, it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it's still light. And then they get like 3 hours of darkness, and then about 3
Uh,
a.m., it's the sun's back up. You've got the reverse in wintertime. They've got, only a few hours of sunlight, and it's darkness the whole time. So I don't know about you, but if I was in the darkness all the time, I think I'd resort to the alcohol too. Um, and I think it warms them up.
I think so as well. Now, I think it's due to the weather. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. The very interesting theory. Now Australians are known to to take a sip every now and then. More beer than kind of heavy liquor, though. Am I correct about that?
Well, it depends. The men like the beer. I think the women like the spirits. So if I had to pick anything, I wouldn't pick the beer. I'd pick the spirits. But yeah, I think it just goes on with our culture. We're laid back, friendly, as you know, and we just like enjoying ourselves. So when we do it pretty hard. You either go or go at it, or you don't go at it at all. And I think that's what happens. But yeah, it's just something you've grown
Mm,
up with, right? I think in Europe, the kids grow up with watered down wine. And so when they get the wine when they're a teenager, it's nothing unusual to them because they've
yes.
been drinking, sort of a version of it. I think us Australians, we don't do that when we're kids. So when we hit 18, it's like, okay, where's the alcohol? So I think it's different. But yeah, we definitely like enjoying ourselves, that's for sure.
Yeah, my father used to put a little bit of watered down wine in my bottle to make me go to sleep, but I think it's similar here in the US where as soon as you're that drinking age, it's a kind of a burst out
Mm,
and it's, all of a sudden you really want to kind of take advantage of it. Now, Australians do a lot of travel. I've yet to go to, you know, Southeast Asia, to Thailand, to South Korea, etc. These countries, Japan. I get invites. I would love to go.
mm.
I mean, I know you're closer there in proximity. You spend a decent amount of time. You even have, I think one of your blogs was just talking about some Manila, what to do in Manila. I think it was. But can you talk about those countries a little bit and what you like the best and what to avoid?
Yeah, look, Asia's amazing. It's so close to Australia, so that's one good thing for us. We can get to it, and it's quite cheap. There's so much diversity in Asia. You've got like Japan, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. So it really depends, Joe, on what you want to do. So um,
Mm.
a lot of the places are very cheap for us, especially because we're in close proximity to Asia. Um, but if you love shopping, you'd go to Vietnam. They've got really good quality products there.
Really?
Thailand's really good, probably a little bit cheaper and nasty when it comes to the shopping quality. Um, what else? Malaysia's very nice. So Malaysia's a Muslim country, so that's very interesting. And Singapore's really good for the shopping. Japan's mind blowing. It's so different. It's not what you would expect. The technology is on another level. It's just beyond anything any of us have currently got in technology, and very beautiful too. You've got the cherry blossoms and
Hmm.
so much scenery to see there. But yeah, look, and Hong Kong and China, um, very nice as well. But yeah, for me, I love Asia. There's a lot and Manila, of course. I go to Manila quite a bit for work, so I know Manila well. But that's got really good shopping as well. They've got the city of the mega malls there. So if you love shopping, they've got like two or three buildings connected, and that's just everything you could imagine, every brand, worldwide brand you could imagine, and you could spend like a whole day there, going from mall to mall. But yeah, it's an amazing destination. I would highly recommend Asia, but it really depends on what you want to do. So, and also you've got Bali as well, Indonesia. I forgot to mention that. That's a place that a lot of Australians go to, and a lot of Europeans also go there because of the island atmosphere. That's quite nice as well. But it depends on what you want to do. So, for some
Mm.
people, they love going for shopping. So, shopping will be their main, thing that they do. If you want to relax, there's a lot of um, say pools with bars. So, the bars are right inside the pool and you can have a drink and relax in the water, go surfing, whatever you want to do. Asia fits the bill. But yeah, it depends on what you want to do, what sort of holiday you want.
I heard recently that Bali something's going to happen there where if you're not, I guess same thing with Qatar, if you're not married to your girlfriend, boyfriend, that something's bad. Can you expand on this? What's going to happen
Yeah,
there?
so they don't agree to sex outside of marriage. So basically, if you are found doing that and you're not married, then you'll be charged. So yeah, they've put in and because there's a lot of Muslims there in Indonesia, so it's probably very similar. Um, yeah, you've just got to do your research and your prep before you go because um, if you're caught, I don't know how they'd catch you, but if you're caught, they would, you'd be in a lot of trouble. So I think, I don't know, maybe they're trying to clean the place up. I don't know. I haven't been to Bali for a while, but maybe it's got a bit cheap and nasty over there and they're trying to clean the place up. But yeah, that's the current law there now. So, but yeah, I've got some friends that are going over there, so I might actually ask them when they come back to give me a bit more intel about what's going on over there.
I mean, as a Westerner, it just boggles the mind.
Yeah,
I mean, do you have to bring your marriage certificate? It's so beyond anything that we do here. Are they going to ask if you're Mr. if we have different last names? But it's their culture. It's what they do. We have to we have to observe. We have no choice. We're visiting.
that's right. Yep, yeah. So you've got to be. That's if I can say anything about travelling, prepare before you go, and then you won't be up for anything that you didn't
Mm.
expect.
Yeah, very much so. Before you asked about, we were talking about Asia. You mentioned shopping. A couple of my highlights. Food is one of my favorites. Experiencing different foods in those cultures. One of my favorite things to do, and of course, kind of the beaches. I like to be on the beach as well. Knowing that, is there a particular country that you'd recommend
Yeah, I would.
in
I
Asia?
would go to maybe Vietnam, or just trying to think
Uh,
beaches. I was going to say Bali, but yeah, the shopping's not the best in Bali. Yeah, I'd say Vietnam. Vietnam, you could go swimming as well as the shopping. Yeah, I'd have to say Vietnam's really, really good for the shopping. Um, Other than that, also the Philippines. So you could also go there, and that it's got good water and also the shopping's good. So I'd say those two would be the best.
do you set up tour guides, like tours for people?
No, not at the moment. I've got a full-time job as well as doing this, so I don't have the time to do that. But I
Oh
think in
wow.
the future, yes, absolutely, I'd love to take people around and do tours, show them where all the good spots are. But yeah, that's probably in my future, but not at the moment.
Yeah, I've had the great chance to talk to some, that set up the tours. They do all the research and they do all this, and you come along and they have a smaller group, and um, oh my goodness, you'd be great at that with your knowledge and your your books and your blog. You would love it too. That would be really really cool. Um, and as far as knowing the language when you visit these places, like in Asia, is English, do they, I know like in Paris they get kind of a bad rap, but if you just kind of try a little bit, they really appreciate it. Is it similar in Asia?
Yeah, just going back to France, they are so lovely there. If you try, they will go out of their way to help you. So I reckon that myth
Yes,
is really non-existent. I don't know whether it was the Australian accent that helped me. Maybe
agree.
that might have helped. Um, but yeah, in Asia, um, you don't really need to know the language. Most of them speak English. Um, if you try a few words, they always have a
Mm.
bit of a smile, and then they might give you a better discount when you're in the market. But yeah, I think what I try and do is I try and learn at least hello and thank you wherever I go. I might get it wrong in the pronunciation. They'll have a bit of a chuckle and then they'll give you a good deal normally. So I find if you know the language, you get treated. I don't think you get treated better, but you get more out of the trip, I think, if you know the language. So, whether it's French or Italian or Spanish, um, you know, it's also good for you because you can hear them talking and you know what's going on. So, if you comprehend the language, you go,
Mm,
okay, and it helps you in situations where there could be a bit of danger too, because you can hear people talking and you've got knowledge about what they're saying. So I find that that's handy. And it's been very handy in Italy for me because I understand Italian as well as I'm not fluent, but I speak it. So I'm listening to their conversations without them knowing. And it's good because it protects you, I think. It's a good protection to know the
mm.
language.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I live in the northeast of the U.S., just north of New York, and I have Greek friends, Polish, Portuguese, you know, Puerto Rican, and th- I've been very used to having languages, different languages all around me, and you can just tell when somebody's mother is speaking a different language, and just by
Mm,
inflection, you don't need to understand the words. You could tell the tone and the inflection and whether they're looking at you.
mm,
You just kind of get used to that sense a little bit of, is it kind, is it is it embarrassing, and people just kind of have to put their guards down. But to the other point that you made on France, I visited France before, Lyon, only a little bit time in Paris, but if you just try a little bit, they'll appreciate it. It's this snobbish wherever that don't even try and
mm.
just start yelling in their own language, and of course they're going to get frustrated with. But I find them to be quite pleasant. Um,
Ab-
and also, as far as the food, I'm
No,
sorry?
it's all good.
The food is really, I just wanna, I know they have to be careful with allergies and things like that, but when I go to a new place, that I've never been before, and I just want to try something local, and I end up looking around and see what other people are eating, and I'll say, can I have that or that? Just what do you recommend? I mean, that's what really fascinates me about Asia. I mean, talk about the when I ask people about the food, everybody says they go to Thailand or Vietnam.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's because of the food. Um, they've got really nice food, and Thailand also very nice
Mm,
food. The one thing, I mean, look, I avoid the street food because it's a bit dodgy. You can, you know, end up getting quite sick because you don't know how fresh that meat is that you're eating. But yeah, the Vietnamese food is gorgeous. So yeah, if you're into food, shopping, and also swimming and relaxing, Vietnam would be your top, I think. Thailand's good too. You can actually go to Phuket. There's a place called Phuket in Thailand, and it's very much the beach, water. The shopping is probably not quite as good as Vietnam, but it really, as I said, Joe, it depends on what you're after. If you're not really fussed
mm.
about the shopping and it's more the water and the sun, then yeah, probably Thailand. But for an all-rounder, Vietnam's the one. And funny thing about Vietnam also, they've got some coffees and teas that they sell there, and they're a bit like, I don't know whether you've heard about the Fijians, how they've got kava. It's a bit, it's sort of almost alcoholic, some of the teas and the coffees. Um, so yeah, if you want something a
Hmm,
bit different, that's going to give you a bit of a happy smile, I suppose. You can try also the coffees there as well. They've got a lot of coffee houses that you can go to.
very cool. And as far as currency and spending money there, is everything gone digital, or like at the marketplaces, do they still want to actually exchange cash?
So it depends on where you go. So if you go somewhere like Scandinavia, they're almost all credit card. There is absolutely no cash. There's certain places that will take cash, but
Mm,
they're really reducing. Asia's very much about cash, especially if you go to the markets. In fact, I would recommend that you go cash there because
really?
if they take your credit card, you don't know whether it's actually going to be skimmed also because they take it behind somewhere. So my recommendation would
Oh,
be always
wow.
to take cash in the Asian countries. If you're somewhere like Europe, I think it's half and half. I haven't been to actually went to Honolulu last year, and that seems to be half and half still, either cash or credit. So yeah, it just depends on where you're at. But I'd say, yeah, if you're going to Asia, it's very much for cash. But you can also do credit card. It's up to you. Um, you know, I think with the cash, you've got to make sure that you spend all the cash,
Mm,
because if you don't spend all the cash, that you're then going to be up for some more exchange rates and you know currency fees. So it's you know maybe take a little bit of cash. You know that you're going to use that, and then have the credit card as a backup.
mm. I would think the markets and things like that would be more cash, but the hotels would be digital and
Yes.
credit. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned Honolulu. You mentioned Honolulu. You had a great blog on it on Hawaii. How did you like Hawaii?
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii so many times, but I actually had a trip planned when the pandemic hit and that got cancelled. So I was most disappointed about that. But then I went over there.
Ah,
I've been there, I won't tell you how many times, but I know that place basically like my local shopping centre. Um, and so, yeah, it's always fabulous, Honolulu. I had a hotel that was right near Ala Moana, so I had that like the empty suitcase, and I was filling it up with stuff. So um, it was fantastic. Had a great pool. I was sunning myself, having a swim. Yeah, Honolulu is very much like a place in Australia called the Gold Coast, except on a bigger scale. It's amazing. Honolulu, yeah. A lot of Australians go there. We just love it, Honolulu. And if you ever go to Honolulu, you're probably going to hear Australian accents there as well, because we just love it.
you just kind of made an interesting point. You always bring an extra suitcase that's empty to bring back stuff.
Yes. Yep. You got to do that. So you basically don't have a lot in your suitcase. So if you're going to Honolulu, you need a swimsuit, you need t-shirt and shorts, maybe a pair of thongs, or flip flops as you would call them, and maybe a pair of sneakers, and obviously your underwear and stuff. And that's all you really need. So
Yes.
don't take a lot, and then just fill it up, because you've only got certain amount of baggage allowance. So, but it's about taking the biggest bag you've got, empty. And it's funny when you go to the airport, they go, "Oh, you're going shopping, aren't you?" Because they can tell because it's so light. So you give the game away.
Very interesting. How about Mexico? Have you been to Mexico?
Yeah, I've been to Mexico. I don't know whether you call it Mexico. It's Tijuana. I went to Tijuana. I went to San Diego and then down to Tijuana. Um,
Ah,
yeah, I've got stories about my Tijuana trip in Annex from Abroad. So um, I've got the travel books, but I've also got this other one where I tell a lot about some of the stories and some of the people I've met in my travels. Um, so yeah, that was a fun day down there. I have to say. But yeah, I would like to see a lot more of Mexico, because that sort of gave me a bit of a taster on Mexico. But yeah.
can you share a story about Tijuana that kind of encapsulates that city, that experience?
Well,
I've never been.
it's all I can tell you about is there was tequila involved, a nightclub in the daytime,
Uh oh.
and a bit of shopping. You could probably fill in the blanks.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, the tequila there is wonderful. The local tequila is, yeah, absolutely wonderful. And how about the Caribbean? I know like the U.S. Virgin Islands have a lot of great shopping, a lot of great beaches.
Haven't been to the Caribbean. I've been down to Miami, um, which was, I suppose you're heading down that way, aren't you? But yeah, I haven't been to the Caribbean, so that is on my bucket list. I need to
Yeah.
get over there. um, at one point. But yeah, I've heard that the islands are beautiful. And someone that I know has been to Puerto Rico, and she said that that was gorgeous as well. Um, but yeah, haven't been down there, but would love to go.
Yeah, you have a great story where you were there in Miami and South Beach and a hurricane was coming.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I thought I'd done my prep, but hadn't done my prep as well as I thought. But yeah, that was an interesting, uh, interesting situation. But I'm still here. I'm still alive, so that I'm live to tell the tale. But yeah, I think when you get into circumstances that you don't expect, Joe, I think you really learn a lot about yourself, and learn to survive. I think so.
Mm,
Travel is great, but if there's things happen too, things that you don't expect. So you've got to be able to you've got to have that resilience, I think, and resources in yourself to be able to cope with that. So that's part of travel. There's the good and the bad, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
right. Right. How about cruising? Do you recommend cruising?
Cruising, cruising at the moment's got a bit of a bad name because of COVID, because of being in an enclosed, you know, spot with, a lot of people. I think until we get that under control, until that calms down a bit, I mean, look, everyone's got their own options, I suppose, when it comes to travel. Some people, all they do is cruising, and that's great. I myself wouldn't do it. I don't do much of it because I like the exploring, and doing sort of more of my own thing there. Um, but yeah, I would say you would maybe just need to be really careful, while we've still got that around. But yeah, look, each to their own. I mean, I've been on cruises, and they're great. You don't need to really worry about anything. Everything's paid for. The only thing is you've got a lot of people around you and the same people, so you're not meeting new people unless um, get off somewhere and then do a bit of investigating. But yeah, I mean, each to their own, really.
Yeah, you mentioned that, there's good and bad with traveling. I think with the cruising, it kind of lowers some of those. Well, you can still certainly have bad experiences, but a lot of the, other things can kind of be controlled by that. I've done a lot of cruises with my kids and with the family. What appeals to me more now is kind of the smaller river cruises in Europe. I hear those are fantastic.
Yeah, they're good. So there's some in Germany that you can actually go on, that take you from Germany through to Austria. And so I think if you're
Yeah.
doing those sorts of cruises, because they're more internal within Europe, I think they're good. If you're going from, say, Australia to the Pacific and maybe to South
Mm.
America, and I mean, look, you can do them too, but it's just, I think, until the health situation calms down a bit, I think it's sort of people are not taking them until, they're looking at other options.
Yeah, very, very true. It's the pandemic. Well, I think the internet has turned traveling upside down, World Wide Web, in that it just kind of pulled out travel agents, right? You're able to work, and then the other big factor, and of course, now is COVID. Two major kind of s- initiatives really affected travel. I mean, those were two major things that has really turned it around. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so it annihilated everything. So in Australia, the borders closed. So no one was going anywhere. And I think the borders closed pretty
Mm.
much in the world. So yeah, so travel agents were out of a job. Anyone in the airlines out of a job. There was other industries also that were affected, like education, because you're getting international
Wow.
tourists coming, international students coming in. That all closed. So yeah, a lot of that was all closed down, as it affected other industries in the world. But I think what's happening now, well, the problem that the airlines got at the moment is all those aircraft are asleep for so long. So they're out in the deserts. not being used, and they didn't expect the travel
Mm.
demand to take off so quickly. So they expected people to travel, but they thought they would have time to actually wake those planes up. And what happens is you've actually got to do a lot of maintenance on the planes to actually get them back into service. And also because of what happened, there was the staffing was down as well. So the travel industry is really rejoicing now, but they're struggling also because they're trying to get back to normal. Um, and but I don't think they
Mm.
expected, especially if I can talk about Australia, we've gone berserk when it comes to travel. Like people are going, right, I'm going here, here, and here, and I'm going tomorrow. But there's so much demand, there's not the seats, so the flights are going out full, which is great for the airlines and for the travel agents and the travel industry. But it means the costs are higher at the moment because they can command higher prices because the demand is just out of like through the roof.
It is incredible how fast it came
Yes.
back. Really, really incredible. So, Linda, on the podcast, we talk about. I always kind of bring up discipline. I gained a lot of weight when I started my business. The doctor said you're not going to see your daughter graduate, and people ask me how I lost the weight. I always say discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life and in travel, in your view.
So discipline's really important. So for me, obviously I've got the side hustle and my full-time job. I've got to be very disciplined with my time because time's precious outside of my work. And what do I put my
Mm.
energy into, right? That's going to have the most effect. So for me, I'm very much organized. I know what I'm doing in with my time. I'm very much focused on that. Things can change, obviously, and you can be dynamic around that. Discipline's so important when you're traveling because, especially if you say you're on a tour with people, if you don't have that discipline, you're not going to be ready for when the bus takes off or when the flight takes off. So I think you've got to have that
Mm.
discipline. If the flight's taking off at 10 a.m., you've got to be out of that airport at 7 a.m. If you've got no discipline and you're still asleep at 6:30, well, you ain't going to get on that flight. So discipline's really important. I think discipline in life. I think if you're an achiever and you achieve things, you've got to have that discipline to get you to where you need to be to succeed. So for me, discipline is very much you can learn discipline, but sometimes I think you're born with it as well. Um, it can be, both, but it's very much you've got that discipline and that drive to do something, you'll do it. So you want to achieve, say, a degree, you've got to have that discipline to actually do each step of the way to get that degree. It might be losing weight. You've got to discipline yourself to actually eating right, exercising, and doing the right thing for your body, physically and mentally, right? So discipline's so important, I think, in every respect, in every part of life. Doesn't matter if you haven't got discipline, that's okay too. But it's better to have discipline, in my opinion, because you just achieve more, I think, in life and you get more out of life, I would say.
Yeah, that's really well said, Linda. And the discipline of doing your research before going abroad. We mentioned some kind of traps with, Ramadan and, marriage certificates and things like that. Just do the work. Be disciplined about learning where you're going to and what some of the customs are and some of the society that works before you go. You'll save yourself and everybody a lot of headaches.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree, Joe.
Linda King, what motivates you?
What motivates me? Gosh, I'm very much an achiever, so I like to achieve. I'm driven by that. Um, I like helping people actually as well, which has been throughout my career. I've had
Mm.
been in leadership and helped others. But now I think helping others by my website and my blog and my books, I like sharing the knowledge because I have a great life traveling and I want that to be for everyone else. Um, what else motivates me? I think to be
Mm,
happy, I like, I want my life to be happy and fruitful and um, exciting, I suppose, and interesting. So that motivates me, I think. But travel absolutely motivates me. So for me, travel is such an amazing education. It gives you so much. It makes you grateful for what you've got. You see so many other things that where people haven't got as much. And I think, yeah, it's just wonderful. I think everyone should do it. Even if it's just one trip overseas, people should do it because it would change their whole perspective on life and the gratitude that they would have. Um, they wouldn't complain about so much. Like, obviously when you live somewhere, people complain and go, I don't like this, this, and this. I
mm.
think if you travel, you tend to go, okay, well, what am I complaining about? Because actually my life is pretty good compared to others. Um, so, yeah, I think that's probably all the things that motivate me, I would say.
Yeah, well said, Linda. I remember when I used to go to Italy as a child, and I would come back to the States, and people would complain about things, and I say, well, they just do it different over there. Not that it's better,
Mm,
not that it's worse, not that we're better or worse here. They just do it different. People do live very differently and still live very happy lives. So you said it best when you said, travel is education. It's just a wonderful, wonderful education to see how others live and to, be part of it. And uh it's just wonderful, and I recommend it for everyone. How do you measure success?
Success. I think with success, it's about the feedback you get. So when I say write a blog or I'm writing a book, the feedback that I get tells me I'm on the right track and that I'm succeeding. So I, often get emails. I also
Mm.
get messages on my website, and I think to myself, well, if I'm getting that feedback, good feedback, you can get bad and good feedback, obviously, but the good feedback sort of goes, well, you know what, I'm on the right track. And they also people also give you ideas, and they go, I really loved that blog post. Can you do more of these? So I think people give you, I mean, in
Mm.
yourself, you know whether you succeed because you're proud of it, right? You're proud of what you've produced or you're proud of what you've done. Um, you can get other people validating, but I think it's both ways. So it's what you know in yourself that you've had a goal and you've gone and done the goal and succeeded, and also via the feedback you get from people. So, whether it be reviews or it's emails or feedback, but I think it's measured both ways, internally and externally.
Yeah, getting feedback, positive feedback is so important. And there's going to be trolls out there. I don't need to tell you, and you have to kind of ignore them. But you do such a great job. Your blogs are really, really. You could tell that you have a passion for it. And look, here's what I've learned, maybe you can use it too. And your books are so good. You do such a great job. I look forward to when you eventually have tours and you go on with these people and you really share your love, your absolute love for travel and culture. Linda King, thank you so much for your time today. What an absolute pleasure. I was so excited when you said you were going to do this. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, number of ways. And thanks, Joe, for having me also. So I've got my website. So it's thesmarttravelista.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok. So you can get me on any of those. I'm mainly probably on Twitter, mostly, and Instagram. But yeah, you can find me under at the Smart Travelista, and on Twitter the_Travelista. So happy for a chat, happy to speak with anyone. And yeah, if you want any travel tips, you know where to find me.
Absolutely. It's a great website, Travelista, Travelista, just like it sounds. We'll put them all in the show notes as well. Like she said, web, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, even Pinterest. I saw you had some things as well. Linda King, thank you so much. I look forward maybe one day having a cup of coffee, meeting face to face, and traveling and meeting somewhere between us somewhere. That would be absolutely
Yep,
wonderful.
I look forward to it, Joe. All the best.
Thank you so much, Linda. You all the best. You be well. I'll talk soon.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.